Good morning. It is Monday, the first Monday of Nonfiction November, and I thought I would check in and start this vlog with the books that I'm currently reading for Nonfiction November. I'm reading, I've started 5 nonfiction books, all nonfiction right now, not reading any fiction. So let's just go through them. So I've started with The Best American Science and Nature Writing 2019, edited by Montgomery. I'm about 100 pages into this. So this is a collection of long-form journalism pieces, scientific articles, and essays, all relating to different science topics. There's stuff in here about space. There's stuff in here about biological conservation or conservation of endangered species. There's stuff in here about, let's see, what was one of the other ones I read that I really enjoyed? This, like sort of nature writing about a specific place and the changes that that place goes through over time. I've read, I think, 7 or 8 of the different pieces so far. So far, as with any collection, there's been hits and misses. I also have started The Essential Feminist Reader, edited by Estelle B. Freeman. I've read the first 2 pieces in this. This is a collection of writings, essays, excerpts from longer works, poetry, all different kinds of things, all from the 1400s all the way up through present day, talking about feminist thinking, ideas, mostly written by women, but there are a few men in there as well. And the first 2 pieces were very good. So really glad to have picked this one up. This is a naked hardcover. I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. This is a memoir written by a Black woman who is working in the sort of religious nonprofit field and her experiences in the world. Buddy reading this with Britta Bowler, and about 3/4 of the way done with it. It's excellent so far. I picked up yesterday morning with my extra hour from time change that happened this past weekend. I read the first 100 pages of Brain on Fire by Susannah Cahalan, all about her illness, mental health break, not quite sure what's going on. This book starts out, Susannah Cahalan is is a journalist working for the New York Post. And she starts acting weird, like her personality changes, she gets paranoid, like all of these things. She starts to not trust different members of her family and her boyfriend, and she winds up waking up one morning in the hospital strapped to a bed, and she doesn't know how she got there. So the first 100 pages were quite a wild ride, and she's now in the hospital. She's now been admitted to the hospital, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her. And then last but not least is a book that I started in October, and that's Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, The Origins of Our Discontents, all about how the U.S. truly has a caste system based on racial hierarchy. I'm buddy reading this with Patrice, Doris, and Karen, and it is so fabulous. It is really good. You can see by how much tabbing is going on, how much I'm getting out of this. It is really, really brilliantly written and brilliant information and just everything I wanted it to be. So yeah, starting off really well. Did it, guys. I voted, and look, Doris, I got a sticker. First time ever that my polling place actually had. I voted today's stickers, so yay. Let's hope the outcome is as good as my sticker, but I think it is a very good sign. So I figured now would be a good time to check in. This is Tuesday of the first week of Nonfiction November, and I haven't checked in today for what I've been working on. I'm still working my way slowly through Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness by Susannah Cahalan, and this memoir, I started on Sunday, and I haven't had much chance to get to it. Sorry, my kitten is trying to get up on the counter. I got to keep an eye on her. I haven't had much time to work on it. I did get a chance to read a little bit today during lunch. Of course, today is election day, and so election anxiety is real. But I figure, you know, a memoir is a good thing to distract you, right, when things are crazy in the world. So yeah, this is pretty good. It's not as gripping as I would have hoped it would be, but of course she's putting this together. She doesn't remember this month of illness where she, you know, she doesn't remember what happened. She's piecing this memoir together through medical records, through her family, members of her family who kept diaries during this time, even through hospital video footage from when she was hospitalized. Her father did give her like a little journal for her to keep writing in, because she's a writer. I think I said that on my last clip. She was a journalist for the New York Post. So writing was a big part of her life, and but her writing from this time, like there's little snippets that they include in here of her actual writing, and you can tell like she's clearly not in her regular frame of mind at all. So, you know, it's interesting, but at this point I'm about 120 pages into this memoir. She doesn't know what's going on. So it's really frustrating to keep getting these little scenes of her in the hospital and them not finding anything out. So I'm hopeful that as this goes along, we'll get to know more and more about what's going on with her. At this point, it just feels like, it does feel like we're in the same place that she is, with just like all this nutty stuff is happening and you just have no idea what's really causing it. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm also probably going to pick up tonight, because it's election night and I'm really anxious, this romance, Julia Quinn's The Duke and I. My romance reading buddy group of Doris and Katie and I have decided that we're going to reread all the Bridgerton series before the Netflix adaptation comes out on Christmas Day. I'm so excited for this. Can't even tell you. I watched the trailer. It looks amazing. I have read all of the Bridgerton books multiple times. Love this series, and this is the first book, The Duke and I. So gonna pick this up tonight, I think, and try to distract myself with a fun, frothy Regency romance. Wednesday morning, November the 4th, and that is just ridiculous. It's Friday. I haven't done a check-in in a couple of days, and that's because I've had election brain, as I'm sure many of you have. But I had the camera set up because I was just filming my recent reads for the end of October. And I figured, well, I had the camera set right up, and the cat seems to want to lay on me while I'm talking. I thought I would talk about 2 books that I've finished this week. So the first book that I finished this week, I finished because I had insomnia on election night. Shocking, I know. And this was a very good distraction while I couldn't sleep. This is Brain on Fire, My Month of Madness by Susannah Cahalan. Now, I've talked about this a couple of times in this vlog, so I'm not going to get into it, except to say this was good. This was just an average read for me, I guess. It didn't, like, blow me out of the water, and it wasn't like I disliked it either. I thought it was interesting. I thought you know, she is a good writer, but for some reason, and I don't know if it was my own mental state while I was reading it, I just did not feel a strong sense of connection with the story. There was some distance there, and I don't know that it was intentional, but I think because Susannah Cahalan doesn't know herself what happened to her during this month where she is dealing with some unknown illness, which they do figure out what it is in the end. But in the beginning, they have no idea. And she keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And she does not remember any of this time. And she pieces this story together through, you know, memories of other people around her, her parents, her family, the doctors, the medical staff, video that was at the hospital, her medical records, all that sort of stuff. And so maybe that is what causes the distance. I thought towards the end, you do get more of a sense of what she's feeling about all of this as she starts to recover and try to rebuild her life. And so I think it's really interesting as a case study of what happens to somebody when they have an illness that can't be diagnosed for whatever reason. And especially if you're a woman and a young woman, how how people see you in that situation. I thought, it was interesting from that perspective. And, she does address the fact that she has a lot of privilege. And for a lot of people in the world, this could have been a deadly disease. But because she is a young white woman who has, family support and wealthy parents, not wealthy parents, but well-to-do parents, and she has good health insurance from her employer, and her employer doesn't fire her when she gets ill. She has a strong support system around her, and so many people in the world, and especially in the United States, do not have that. And if they had had this happen to them, they may not have ever figured out what was wrong with them, and they certainly wouldn't have had the kind of $1 million treatment that she had. But I was glad that she did acknowledge that, and that she was lucky to, her circumstances provided a lot of benefit to her as she was dealing with this illness. So glad to have this one off my TBR. It's been on my TBR for literal years. So that's good. Then I finished another memoir. This is I'm Still Here, Black Dignity in a World Made for Whiteness by Austin Channing Brown. So I buddy read this book with Britta, and it's just a slim little memoir. It's like 180 pages. And Austin Channing Brown is a Black woman who was born, her parents, when she was born, on purpose gave her the name Austin because they knew that Austin is considered, is most frequently a white male name, and that people would assume on just seeing her name that she was a white man, and it might allow her to get at least seen for things like job interviews or school applications or things like that if people didn't automatically dismiss her because of her name. And the beginning of the memoir, Austin Channing Brown, goes into how that has worked out for her in her life. And I thought that was very interesting. And, there's been a lot of discussion in different places, different venues, or different areas of the world about the power of a name and the importance of your name and the prejudices that are attached to names that are considered quote unquote ethnic. So I thought that was a really interesting discussion. Overall, this memoir was good, but not great for me. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that she addresses in here, but she never really delves into it very deeply. I felt this was very superficial. A lot of this is Channing Brown relating anecdotes and episodes and like scenes of things that happened to her, or happened to people she knows, without her really reflecting deeply about either about how she felt about that or what it means to her, like in a deep way, or connecting it contextually with wider thought and theories and things like that about racial injustice and racial inequality in America. She does towards the end of the essay sort of get a little bit more reflective about things like that. But you know, I'm reading this at the same time I'm reading Caste by Isabel Wilkerson, and, you know, perhaps it's an unfair comparison to take this short little memoir and say, you know, she doesn't really address things as deeply and as thoroughly as Isabel Wilkerson does. So perhaps I'm being a little unfair to Austin Channing Brown in that way, but you know, you can't help which books you pick up at the same time. And sometimes you're reading things together and one, you know, doesn't compare as well just by chance. It's well written, but I'm finding with memoir that I prefer either that memoir address sort of historical context or current context more deeply, or it's really funny. And this memoir is neither of those things. So the other thing I will say is this book is very much from a religious standpoint. Austin Channing Brown works for social justice initiatives through religious organizations. And so she's talking a lot about her experience with her faith while dealing with racial inequality and racial injustice. And I just didn't connect with those parts of the memoir. I'm just not a person that thinks deeply about Christianity in that way, in the way that's being discussed in this memoir. But if you are a person that for whom discussions of faith are really deeply meaningful to you, then you may very well find this memoir a lot more emotional than I did. So good, not great. That's how I feel about that one. So those are the two that I've completed. Like I said, it's Friday. Libby is obviously, you know, ready for a relaxing weekend. I am looking forward to doing some reading this weekend and hoping to get through maybe 1 or 2 more books. We shall see. I have 1 more day to go on this first week's vlog, so I will check back in with you tomorrow. I just want to wrap up this first week of Nonfiction November, which I didn't finish any more books other than the 2 that I've already spoken about. So 2 nonfictions for the first week, which I don't think is too bad considering election. Been very, involved in freaking out and stressing out about that. So now that the presidency, it's been announced that Joe Biden is the winner, so I can breathe a sigh of relief and move on. I did finish my romance book, The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. This was a reread for me, specifically chosen to be read during this stressful time period, and also to prepare for the release of the Netflix series on Christmas Day. So excited. This did not disappoint. I love Julia Quinn. I think she is the OG when it comes to writing about siblings in a series, and with the witty banter and the true love and affection that shines through amongst siblings. Nobody does it better than Julia Quinn. And I love that in this book. It's there in spades. And I don't know how many times I've read this book in the past, but it continues to be a story that really touches me emotionally. So that was very good for distraction purposes. Now, I made good progress on my other books that I had talked about at the beginning of this video, but you're going to be hearing more about those in week 2 as I try to finish them up. So stay tuned for that. I hope everybody's first week of Nonfiction November was very successful, and I will talk to you later.